Hello again. I've had a number of people ask me why I don't do a video and talk about this Richard Allen warrant affidavit that was just released, unsealed. Well, I think there's more questions now than there were before this thing was unsealed. Let me do my best to share my opinion on a few things. First off, please try to remember some stuff I've talked about in the past concerning Investigations 101, shall we call it. Remember that a prosecutor is going to have to show that a perpetrator who committed any crime had the opportunity to commit the crime, had to have the means to commit the crime, and probably most importantly, had to have a motive for committing that crime. So here we are. This warrant didn't tell us everything, did it? Well, let's take opportunity. Several witnesses identify a man at the right time and place on the Monon High Trail, and one on the bridge, of someone matching the description, roughly, of Richard Allen. Right time, right place, right date. There's some discrepancies in the clothing and that kind of thing, height, and that's understandable. But to go along with that, back in 2017, Richard Allen goes to some type of law enforcement, whether it was this conservation officer or a deputy or whatever, and put himself in the area of the bridge and on the bridge, and even at the CPS building where he parked, where other people saw a vehicle similar to his. So the opportunity is there. He was there. Let's see, means. Did he have the means to commit the crime? Well, we don't know what precipitated the search warrant just before the arrest of Richard Allen, but they searched his house. I think they towed a vehicle, and they were there for quite a while. And one of the things they recovered was this .40 caliber Sig Sauer pistol. Well, in the affidavit, we learned that between the two girls, where they were found, where their bodies were found, was an unspent .40 caliber round, probably in the grass there between the two girls, apparently just a couple of feet from Libby. So, ballistics expert, or at least one expert, examined that unspent round and determined, by matching the ejection marks from that casing to the actual Sig Sauer .40 caliber weapon that they took from Richard Allen's house. So that puts him right at the location of the girls. So certainly had the opportunity, obviously had the means, because we can assume he had that .40 caliber with him, and that would be used to kidnap the girls. Guys down the hill. Probably brandished that weapon at that point, and that's basically a kidnapping. Once he moved them, ordered them from their normal travel, from their normal location, down the hill, that's a kidnapping. That's the beginning of this crime, at the scene anyway. So, motive? We still don't have that, do we? So let's move to the next part of Investigations 101. The who, what, when, where, why, and how things happen. The who, Richard Allen, we've got him there. When? Well, we've got him February 17th, or 13th, 1:30-ish to 3:30-ish, let's say, a couple hours there, in the area of the bridge, on the trail, at the CPS building, walking possibly down the roadway, muddy and bloody, it says. Possibly him, probably is. So, who, when, and where are answered. What we don't have is the what really happened, why did it happen, and how did it happen, which all kind of come from the motive, which we don't know. Those are still missing. The motive and the what, why, and how this thing happened. Since we don't know exactly how the girls were killed, we can only make some assumptions. We can go back to the Ron Logan search warrant that was done, I think, in March of 17. And one of the items they were looking for, not only a gun, but a cutting instrument, I believe it was referred to. So with that and rumors that we've heard, it sounds like the girls were killed by some kind of cutting instrument. So did Richard Allen bring a cutting instrument, some type of knife? We don't know. Did they recover that from his house? We don't know. So we just kind of have to wait on that part. So looks like he had the opportunity, he had the means, he got the gun, probably other items that were maybe discovered at the scene. Again, we're just speculating. Order the girls, guys, down the hill. The kidnapping is there. That's the beginning. What else? Keep in mind that the person who applies for an arrest warrant, in this case for Richard Allen, I guess we're not sure who did that. Maybe we are. I guess I never looked at that last page. But they only have to put enough into that application, that affidavit, to get a judge to agree that a crime has occurred and that this person probably committed that crime. That's probable cause. What a reasonable person would think, that a crime had occurred and that this person probably committed that crime. So there's probably a lot more that law enforcement knows, the answers to these questions, the motive, the why, the how, what happened, those things. I have a feeling law enforcement already knows those, but maybe to protect other people or to not mess up their investigation, they didn't release that stuff yet. There was just enough in that application to convince a judge, yep, this guy probably is involved in the murder of these two girls. Therefore, it was signed and he's in custody. Now, the prosecutor's going to have an uphill battle. It seems like these two attorneys representing the defense seem like pretty sharp guys. This isn't L.A., but I think we're going to have a new version of a dream team attacking this case and defending Mr. Allen. So prosecutor's got a big job coming. Hope he brings in some help. It's probably more than a one-man job. And I think one of the reasons they wanted to keep this thing sealed, like they suggested, was to protect witnesses. Now, those names have been redacted, but believe me, these defense attorneys have already got private investigators searching out who those people are, and they're going to be contacted. Hopefully they've been advised not to talk to the defense. You can't tell them not to. Can't order them not to, but you can suggest that it's best just to be quiet and wait till you under oath on the stand, because they're all going to be on the stand eventually. And you have to give them all credit. They've all been pretty quiet for these almost 6 years. Where else do we want to go here? I guess really that's about it. My gut feeling tells me there's a lot more to this case. The tentacles that Doug Carter talked about come into play. And the biggest question for me is, how in the heck did Richard Allen show up 10 or 15 minutes before the girls, get on that trail, apparently follow them across the bridge, and confront them at the exact location, exact time, when they were there. My gut tells me it's related to the Anthony Shots platform, I guess we would call it. And I'll leave that at that. I saw one YouTuber, a new fella, posted a theory the other day. I think he'd been on Grizzly True Crime, and she referred people to check him out. He had an interesting theory that possibly Richard Allen could have hacked into that account and was aware of the communications with the Anthony Shouts account early morning of the 13th, and there's his opportunity, and he's a lone actor. It's possible. Certainly possible. My gut feeling tells me, though, that he was somehow involved in that circle of people that are into this child porn stuff, and somehow either that was shared with him intentionally, or somehow he obtained that through his circle related around the Anthony Shots profile. So I'm glad you stayed with me. I want to give you my reason, my understanding of why this wasn't solved earlier when they had most of this information way back in 2017. Let's see. Well, for starters, I don't think they did some of this work until maybe recently. But we'll find out how that goes. I think they had the interviews with these witnesses way back when. But I saw this morning, I thought there had to be one reason that it took them so long to get the search warrant for Richard Allen's property and house, and which led to the arrest. And I learned this morning from some news channel, I'm assuming from Indiana, and I looked at it, tried to find it just before I did this, and I couldn't find it again. But kind of a news break, and maybe by the time you see this, it's old news. But apparently, someone connected to the FBI, possibly a civilian working with them, and that's not unusual, maybe filed the information on Richard Allen when he talked to whatever law enforcement it was. It got put into the wrong category. It got put on the back burner, wasn't noticed until recently. I think Doug Carter told us that they go back to the beginning and start over occasionally. And somehow this came to light. So it sounds like this got shuffled maybe where it didn't belong and got overlooked for all these years. And then once they put all that together, they got the search warrant for his house, found that 40 cal Sig Sauer, and the rest up to date is history. So that's why it took them so long. Maybe even locating his car coming by the Hoosier house or whatever that business was that had the cameras. Possible that that was done fairly recently. Regardless, I'm not saying it was. There was a delay because I think it got misplaced, which I've kind of had a gut feeling that somehow it got overlooked once we heard that he actually went to someone and put himself on the bridge that day. So it got lost in the shuffle. Now, that's a mistake. And the defense is going to be all over that with law enforcement, whether it's the state police, Carroll County deputies, Delphi Police Department, FBI, whoever it was that oversaw that part of this where it got shuffled into the wrong place. They're going to be attacked very heavily with, so you made a mistake, didn't you? And then I love that next question, and we've all had it. If you've been in law enforcement and on the stand very often, if you made that mistake, how many more mistakes are in this case? And how do you answer that? So, it's going to be a tough trial. It's way down the road. We're not going to learn a whole lot more unless there's other arrests or they release something else. And if they don't, it may be like a pretrial situation before we learn much more of, the motive, opportunity means, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Maybe a while before we learn that. That's really all I've got. Please hit the like. If you haven't join my channel, subscribe to my channel, please do. But please hit the like. I don't usually emphasize that much, but apparently it helps. And share this if you think it's worthwhile. And I would encourage you to take a look at my book, my novel, my fictional novel, House Secrets, which has to do with me working undercover. It's fictional, but a lot of that stuff I experienced, and it kind of plays into some of the Delphi, Evansdale kind of thing. There's weird stuff going on in the world, and I address some of that in this book. So if you're into these cases, I think you'll find my novel interesting and realistic. It's Christmas time. Make a nice gift for somebody. Let's hope that law enforcement and the prosecutor have their ducks lined up. And, wow. Something new every few days, isn't it? I think there's more to come. Thanks for watching.